that means?
Senior staff.
Senior staff. Hello, buddies. Can you guys believe, because I sure as can't. Also, we have Andrew here from IUSTD filming our meeting, so just,
Hi, Andrew.
not that we aren't always mindful of what we say, but we're just going to be mindful of what we say at myself. So, we only have 3 more meetings, including this one, which is kind of terrifying. So, the first, just welcome message to everyone is if you have something you want to get done, if you have something that you want to have be a legacy of this admin, you got 3 weeks. So let's not let down steam now. If you have any passion projects that you need like a cheerleader on or a connector on, come to me. I'm happy to help and facilitate and make sure we get those things done. Any questions on that? Cool. Since we don't, hello Nige. Since we don't have like a traditional senior staff today, we're not going to use the agenda if there even is one up. I don't know if anyone's put anything on an agenda. Great, because I didn't put one up. So I'm more just going to tell you all the agenda right now, and then we'll get going. So first thing is we're all just going to go around and do any and all updates that we want to have out there. And then after that, we're going to talk about transition a little bit. And then finally, we're going to do some brainstorming on $25,000 that we have to spend as an organization. And we want your help spending $25,000. So that's the way that is going to work. Cool. All right. So I've been talking a lot, so my updates will go last. We're going to go this way. Do you have any updates for it? No? Want to tell people what you've been working on?
Yeah, I'm currently transferring the money from SOA to the USO account.
Yeah. So as you know, all of the student organization accounts are closing, and we're all getting new accounts. Bernie's helping us with that transition, and yeah, cool.
Cool. Okay, so fashion show is still happening, March 25th, 7 to 9 p.m. Everyone should be there. I think it's actually gonna be bigger than I expected. We're trying to get 300 people there, so try and help fill those seats. I don't want it to be low turnout because there's going to be a lot of models and people behind stage. I don't want more people behind stage than watching the show. And then also there is a vigil for a young man who I think I saw in the group meeting a few weeks ago, who passed away in Indianapolis from a hate crime, an Islamophobic hate crime in particular. And there's a vigil for him tomorrow from 8 to 9:30. It starts in Hodge something. I will send out the room number, and then we're going to walk over to Shelter Fountain and just kind of remembrance. So if you guys want to come to that, I'll send out more info in the group meeting.
Awesome. I'm going to jump in really quickly, just to be blunt, even though we don't talk about campaigning in here. I do recognize that Omnis Fashion Show is the same night as the debate for IUSG. However, and I know that probably about half of us, because we're involved in a campaign in some way, shape, or form, are going to be spending the whole time at the debate. That makes it just even more important that if you're a senior or you're not involved in a campaign, that you are at the fashion show. So again, we have just a little over 3 weeks left. Let's finish them strong.
And it's going to be like a really, really fun event, so bring your friends.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Alma.
I'm working with Kevin, who's the campus Apple rep, on like a coding event type thing. There's going to be a survey coming your way in the next like day or two, basically gauging when people can, like kind of what you want to see out of the event. So just I would appreciate it if you guys would fill that out, and I'll send that in the group meeting like probably tomorrow, maybe Thursday.
Awesome. Thanks, Riley.
Sweet.
Can you get us free iPads?
For the event,
We have $25,000.
but not after.
Hi, Ian.
That's fair. Ohio State does this really cool thing with Apple where they give all their freshman students iPads in like part of their program, so that basically the idea is that the university knows all of their students are at equitable technology field when they come onto campus, so that if a professor asks them to do anything related to technology, they are willing and able. But longer conversation.
Awesome.
That's really cool.
Where is that?
Ohio
The
State.
TOSU.
Awesome. Anything else in here?
Awesome.
Awesome.
The only other thing from government relations is that we're still doing our work with hate crimes, still working very hard with that to
doing absolutely everything we can, especially in these last few weeks that we have. We were going to do a letter writing event, which we had mentioned a few times, but we are running into some issues getting space reservation with the short amount of time that we do have. And we're also concerned with turnout with doing it the week after spring break because there wouldn't be a whole lot of push. So Alex mentioned a call campaign, and we're going to be exploring that idea, and hopefully that's something that we can get done in these next few weeks.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Awesome.
Mackenzie, can you just give a quick update of why we're doing a last minute push and kind of what our efforts are looking
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Riley and I, of course, testified on behalf of SB 12, which was the hate crime bill in the Indiana General Assembly in the Senate. It passed in committee 9-1, and then when it went to the full Senate vote, they removed the protected classes. So the bill just says now that judges can consider bias as a motivator for a crime when determining whether or not to extend the sentence. That's already in the Indiana Criminal Code, so this bill is absolutely ineffective. The whole point of the list was to have the protected classes on there. It is now going over to the House, and the House has the opportunity to put the list back and then send it back to the Senate and say, we're not passing this without the list. And that's essentially why we're pushing this so hard, is because we need that list on there for this to mean absolutely anything. And judges all throughout the state have said that, we want the list because we want to know exactly what can be considered bias and what can't be. I mean, for example, is if I attack someone because they're wearing a red shirt and I don't like the color red, is that a bias crime? Is that the same as attacking someone because of their race or religion or ethnicity or whatever, what have you on that list of protected classes? So this is a very important push that we're doing. Of course, we don't have the information for the call campaign yet, but if you can be there, and even if you can't be there, but you can call your legislator during that time, it is very, very important, and you would have my love and respect for forever.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is kind of whack, but like, what if instead of doing like a congressional call campaign, we like did like a media call campaign, like contacting like NPR, like New York Times, like big posts, because like I know like that's probably like kind of ambitious, but there's like this American like Muslim Alliance based in DC, and they covered that article about that Muslim student who was shot. He wasn't a student, Muslim man that was shot and killed, and they said at the end of the article that Indiana is one of the 5 states without a hate crime law. So like we can like kind of push that steam
Yeah.
and like get it.
It's not a bad idea at all.
It's not. Yeah, I think it would be a lot of collaborative work because of the 3 to 4 weeks the timeline that we have, but I don't think it's impossible, and I think it is a very good idea. So if you're willing, Riley and I would love to chat with you about that after senior staff.
And also keeping in mind, this gets into our second item, which we'll get to after we all give updates, but in transition, if this is something that we don't finish by the end of the term, if this conversation doesn't finish in Indiana by the end of our term, write this into your transition docs. So whoever takes over this position next has a starting place and has someone to talk to get these things off the ground even into the summer.
Definitely. Thank you.
Awesome.
I think I have a list of media emails too, readily.
Yeah.
Cool, awesome. Well, you guys can talk
Yeah.
offline about that.
Actually, also real quick, kind of on that note, Lifeline law, everything regarding that in the Congress right now is just pretty much dead. So we have to wait till next session to really start anything.
Well, that's a larger conversation, but probably for transition, but we have a lot of info we can give you on that from talks from earlier this year.
Yeah, I'm meeting with Trevor and Brett soon. So.
Cool, awesome. Well, we have lots of info for you there, so touch base with us. Anything else from Gov Relations?
We're good?
Health and well-being, our superstar. She has to leave for an exam soon, so we all need to send Becca our good thoughts.
Thank you guys.
You've got
Managerial
this.
accounting. Sounds really exciting.
You got it.
Thank you. I don't have any specific health and well-being updates. Just for you, I'm sending those emails tomorrow. So.
Cool, awesome. Let me know if you need any help. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Reunion planning. Woohoo.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be there.
Becca's helping me out. I appreciate it. Cool. Jacob?
Just working on the Hoosier Day graphic and
The what day?
the Hoosier Day graphic.
IU Day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're good.
Go.
Hoosier, IU.
I'm
Fine.
dropping out. I'm dropping out.
dropping out.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm figuring that out and what we're gonna say on that.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Gianna?
Hello.
We're gonna get a graphic soon, and when I send it to you, can you put it in Hootsuite for a couple of days? I'll let y'all. I'll send y'all the information, but it's coming.
That's so sick.
Cool. Yeah.
Gianna.
I do not have any big updates.
Awesome. Cool.
Just helping Maggie. We're ordering some stuff.
You got an update for me?
I do.
Great. Okay, we can chat at the end.
Yes, we can. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick.
Alright, cool. So as is tradition with all of my initiatives, I start them too late in the year and they're too ambitious. So it's looking like that constitutional principles event probably won't happen because I have contacts, but I think getting them together in 3 weeks would be unreasonable. But also with transition documents, when you're going forward, if you need somebody to look at language or something like that, feel free to send it my way or just like at me in the group chat if you want to. Beyond that, I think I'm good.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan. Mason, the man himself.
Alright, well,
Did you all know?
Almost know of.
Do you have law school news for us, Mason? Any updates?
so I got into NYU too, which is cool. And RHA elections are tomorrow, so
You're almost irrelevant.
I
This is
know,
so
I'm so
exciting.
excited. I can't wait. There's like a transition period we have to show them the ropes, but yeah, I cannot wait to be out of this job. Because no, the next person is so much better. Seriously, you guys are all gonna meet her. You're gonna love her.
That's so sweet. Okay, so nothing from you?
Nope.
Awesome. Alyssa? Awesome.
So I have three really good things.
Awesome.
Okay, one, we have a space for the campus kitchen, so that's
Really?
exciting. Yes.
Oh, that is
I'm
awesome.
not entirely sure where it's at, but Olivia. No, wait here. Olivia. No, let me.
I know
explain.
Olivia's probably got it.
Yeah, Olivia ran into me, the committee member I have that's working on it. She ran into me in SPIA and she just went, I got a space for the campus kitchen. And she said some really obscure place that I don't remember now. So, two is we're in the talks with getting, based off of our survey, leveraging that data a little bit, getting some more information about recycling and composting put into new student orientation, which is great because nobody knows how to recycle or compost apparently, according to my survey. And then, what was the third one? Oh yeah, we are in the process of building all of the bat boxes for our bat box event. So, making lots of progress, I'm very excited.
Cool. I sent you an email today about the transportation working group. It was this afternoon.
Okay.
Traditionally, just so everyone else knows, this is one of the committees that sustainability or committee member sits on. If you or one of your committee members can attend the meeting, the
Okay.
date's in the email.
Okay, gotcha.
Cool. Thank you.
Can you send me your survey and the data from it?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Anything from you? No? Okay, cool. Ian?
Nothing for me.
Nothing from you?
No.
Well, hey, we tried.
Did you already
She already, yeah. Heck yeah.
Sorry, as soon as she
Yeah.
covered it.
No, yeah, those like really helped me a lot, so.
Good. We love that. I heard you guys are gonna do your step.
Oh yeah.
I'm so excited.
We might do something.
No, you guys are doing it.
We'll do something.
Excellent. President, before you leave, any updates from you?
Can you tell them about the state of the campus today?
No.
So the provost gave the state of the campus. It was kind of fun update for people like me that likes a lot of facts about IU.
Yeah. Oh, let's.
So if you want to know any facts, Maggie and I have a bunch of them.
I might hit him with a couple.
What are some facts about
So,
IU?
according to the provost, unbeknownst to us, there are 6 international students in IUSG.
We didn't know about this.
Don't know where she got her numbers, but there are 5 in GPSG, 2 in Union Board, and 1 on the board of EONS, in case you were curious.
Do those comprise IUSG?
What?
No.
6 international students.
On IUSG,
On
5
IUSG.
on GPSG. Like each one lists its own.
Yeah.
Oh.
She knew this. And the number of countries represented in the first year undergraduate cohort went up 21% this year.
Past 5 years.
In the past 5 years, excuse me. IUB has 550 programs, 15 schools, and 145 new degrees in the past couple of years. The Center for Rural Engagement has involved approximately 900 students and 30 faculty members in projects this year. So that's really exciting. Shout out to the new O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs.
O'Neill School!
Which started in 1972 as the first of its kind. Financial aid, we have doubled Pell Grants, doubled for Century Scholars, and there's been a 101% increase in Hudson and Holland Scholars in the past 5 years? 5 years. Yeah, so if you, again, random factoids from State of the Campus.
We are now the 4th.
I do like this one.
We are the 4th ranked campus to receive the most amount of money. We are the, you say it's
Yes,
than I do.
okay, so, in terms of arts and humanities funding, we are the 4th best in the nation at receiving additional monies outside of the university. So we received the 4th most for a university in the US of additional funding for its arts and humanities programs.
Only like 30 million.
Casual, it's about like 30 million, yeah.
That's how much
Yeah.
Leo Middle
Our
School costs
cosmic
a name.
science
It is, it
Sorry.
is,
They chose the
so,
wrong
yeah,
font.
the state of the campus was today, it went pretty well, Alex and I both enjoyed it, did some, sat right up front and center, talked to the provost, so, just doing good things for IUSG, yes.
Thank you for your service.
It was the underrepresented statistic that you mentioned.
Oh, yeah, so the retention rate of underrepresented minority students has increased this year to 89% from first to second year. And that's in line with a lot of other numbers, including international students their retention rate is at 90% from the first to the second year. So it's pretty in line with international students. She didn't mention, domestic students, what the average rate was, but she said it went up pretty substantially. So she talked a lot about inclusion and initiatives there. And actually, I was really impressed by a lot of what she had to share.
Just to kind of go off that, you can like claim that you're all about diversity, but until those same students that are as diverse coming in are finishing, we have a big issue with not our underrepresented groups don't finish on the same rate as our other groups of students. So that's kind of why that statistic's super fantastic, and we're not fantastic, but we're more excited about that statistic than probably 89% seems.
Yeah, it's moving in the right direction, and so we're really excited about that. But yeah, state of the campus went well. Any other updates from you?
I just want to make sure you all hear that. Voice report is coming out soon.
It's not funny, it
Promise.
really is. Alex and Dan are doing their best, and it's gonna come out ASAP.
That's about it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, get to this meeting, Wiz.
No, I know. Let me check my notes. I feel like I have one more thing.
He has to go to this all-candidate meeting as like the face of the current IUSG.
You want to give them an update about the JT thing and then say how we're going to put that into our transition notes?
30 million.
He was the former secretary
And then,
treasurer.
because it's, so, all right.
Oh, something
Hey.
meant.
All right, Yin's got an update.
I'm just gonna
What's the
this one thing.
dealio on that?
There's, I kind of sent these numbers in the
Shallow
group
bubbles.
message, but there's a lot of USO, SGSO stuff happening right now. If any of your friends have questions about it, please say that you can be a resource for them. We're trying to basically promote as much information about this change. There's some information sessions that I sent you guys about that we're gonna. Did I send that? If not, I can send it to you all. Sorry. But basically, it's these information sessions are for SGSOs, so the ones that have to transfer from SOA to something else. They don't want to let them just leave in limbo. Issue is they're like 2 this week and 2 the week after you get back from spring break, so not a lot of time to tell students. So we're trying to basically, if they miss those, how we can help them figure out that information still or whatnot. But I'm going to try to keep as much information coming your all way, because people always feel like student government's the best way to, I don't know, deal with that. So cool, you get the update. Thank you all.
Hi, Wizard.
So I'd update on like the big name change thing. Since he died this year, the biggest thing, like me and Alex, we met with JT Forbes, and then we meet with English and JT like in April. The biggest thing that we had is like people been cool with it. The rec sports people that want to name it after this donor who like is actually involved with intramural sports. It's at like an intramural center. So like that's the only pushback so far. But like everybody else been cool with it. We've like contacted the naming committee, so like they've been supporting it. A lot of them, like the biggest thing is like for someone who dies, they usually have to wait like 5 years until they can name a building after them. So what most of the administrators have been telling us is that we just got this new transition documents for right now, and then just like have like the next couple IUSG administrations that come on, like have to keep pushing for this name change, because like the 5-year rule is something that we just like really can't get around right now.
Does that make sense to everyone?
So would it have to be unnamed for 5 years?
Yeah, right now it's like the intramural center, unless like another name comes up. They would kind of want to do like Garrett, like from the basketball player, first black basketball player, but maybe like Garrett Talafaro. That's also an idea. So like they're just kind of like saying it takes time, but like we're definitely still pushing. Like we're not just giving it up or anything. So like, we're just trying to get as like many faculty members, like administrators, heads about this, so it gets down the radar when actually like the 5-year grace period is over.
That makes sense to everyone? Yeah, what's up?
So going off the WIC, like, is there any organized campaign to change Jordan Hall?
Not that I've heard of.
Because like he was a eugenicist
Yeah.
and he was implicated in a murder. Like,
Yeah. So not that I know of or have heard of. However, from my understanding of campus culture, these types of protests come out every couple of years. And some are fruitful and some aren't. So Jordan Hall has definitely been protested before, but I don't think that there's any current movement or protest on that. A good question.
Look up David Starr Jordan.
Yeah.
Indiana was the first state in the nation to have a eugenics law.
It's real bad.
Phenomenal. Awesome. Thank you. Cool. So I have a couple of updates. My first one is the Mosaic Initiative, which I've already touched on. I'm going to be sending out a registration link to the Student Design Symposium, and you're going to read this in the text when I do send it out to you, but I want to say it to your faces so you know how important it is. I really, really, really need you all to push this out to other groups you're involved in, your friends, really as many students as you can. We're trying to get the most diverse group of students possible in this room. A little refresher on what this is. It's going to be on Friday, March 29th, for about 2.5 hours in the afternoon, food provided, and staff from UWITS and the Mosaic Initiative are going to come in and basically tell us to dream big when it comes to our learning spaces. So we're going to be working with a design team to design our ideal computer lab or our ideal large classroom. And what's really cool about this is they will put these designs into action. So Student Building 015, that really cool tech classroom, was designed by faculty at one of these symposiums, and then designers put it into action. So super cool way for students to have a voice in the spaces on campus they're going to be learning in. And as such, we're shooting to have at least around like 35 students there. But as we all know with event planning, we're gonna need pushes from our personal networks to actually get that to happen. And you all are all also welcome to RSVP and attend. But anyway, just be on the lookout. I'm gonna be sending out that link soon and ask you to send it out to your groups. Next update that's actually super cool, and I want everyone to get excited because I haven't been able to announce this yet. But you all are officially invited to all of the reunion festivities. The entire senior staff is invited on April 26th and 27th. Two parts to this. So my first disclaimer is I don't want anyone to feel pressured to attend. So this is by no means a mandatory event. The last thing I want is someone who feels like they have to give up their weekend for this, is not super enthusiastic about it, and then as such relays a not super enthusiastic attitude about it to our over 50 alumni that are currently registered to come. So anyway, it's so not mandatory. Instead, it's, in my opinion, a privilege. So sign up if you want to. I will be sending out some means of getting everyone's schedules who is interested. I'm going to ask you to fill that out so I can get a general idea of, I'll send the agenda of what's up, and then you guys can indicate the events you want to attend. But some to keep highlighted is on that Friday night, Friday, April 26th. I've rented out one of the upstairs rooms at Nick's. It's under 21 too, and so we're gonna have an informal gathering at Nick's with our alums that are in town. So for our over 21-year-olds, this will be a fun time to play some Sync the Biz with any and all of your favorite alums. Note Paul Helmke. But also a good time to just come meet, again, our wide range of alums coming all the way from New York to California, seriously. Another cool thing happening on Saturday, we have guest speakers including former Congressman Lee Hamilton, who the Hamilton Luper School was named after, former Congresswoman Jillong Thompson, who represented a district of Indiana in the Congress and is currently a professor here. Bernice Pesco-Solido, who is the one, I don't know if you guys know, but like Glenn Close and Whoopi Goldberg have been to campus. She's who coordinates that through all of her mental health initiatives. She's going to be speaking. Vice President Fred Kate is going to be speaking on the Grand Challenges Initiative. Provost Rebel is going to be speaking. Anyway, there's just like a slew of phenomenal speakers, so you guys are going to be invited to all of those events throughout the day. I know that I'm talking a lot, but it's just like super exciting and important, and I'm stoked about it. The other event that I really, really, really want both you all and the incoming senior staff at is what I'm calling policy roundtables, but the name is likely going to change. And what this is we're going to have roundtables on like 8 or 9 different topics. I'm going to get a ranking list of preferences from alums before they get here, and then I'm going to assign those roundtables. And our outgoing and incoming chiefs for each topic, I'm going to want us there. So for example, one of them is diversity, equity, inclusion, how the conversations have changed over the decades. So that's going to be a conversation of in what ways have we talked about diversity and equity and inclusion, and how has that shifted and changed. And I'm obviously going to want, Matt and Nija there, and then whoever our incoming chiefs of whoever's elected there. Some other ones that I can think of, some of them might actually not fit into chief roles. So if you're not a chief of a specific committee, but you're interested in one of the topics, which I'll send out, please feel free to preference that with me. There are in my opinion, a ton of really, really interesting topics. So that's one of the events that I super duper want you all at. And then the final event that's more of like a privilege, and I'm super stoked that it's been cleared that I can invite all of you, is the banquet on Saturday evening on April 27th. So this will start around 6 p.m. I don't know how many of you have been in Hinkey Hall, but it's beautiful. It's this banquet space connected to Memorial Stadium. There will be some networking for those over 21. There will be an open bar. Just getting to talk to talk to our alums and chat, and then we're gonna sit down for a seated dinner. I'm gonna encourage everyone to kind of intermix with alums, and then we're gonna hear welcoming remarks from Provost Robel, and then a keynote speech from Paul Helmke, and his former president when he was vice president, Ted Najam, who's a judge on the Indiana Court of Appeals, is going to be introducing him. And then the night will end, and this is why it's super special, I should have just led with the punch, with a transition ceremony. So back in the day, the executives were actually sworn in by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So whoever the president and vice president are that are elected, they're going to be officially sworn in at the end of this banquet. So I'll also be inviting the incoming elected executive to the banquet as well. So that's my large update. I want everyone to get as stoked as I am, and I'll send out kind of a poll of dates and times y'all can be there, so then I can coordinate appropriately. But we want to end with this is in no way mandatory or required. Instead, it's a super awesome privilege that we're celebrating 70 years of student government. Cool. Those are my updates. Are there any questions, comments, concerns before we moved out of update period? No? Awesome. Cool. So now we're going to chat transition. Y'all should have received an email from Bella detailing what the transition will look like and some of that information, as well as an invite to a box folder. Does anyone have any questions on what this looks like? No? So I want to reiterate how important it is if there aren't any questions. One thing that those of you who've been with us since last spring may remember is that the transition didn't go super smoothly. We're wanting to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So whoever's elected, we want them to have all of the information that we have now. So this document and this folder that Bella's invited you to is a place where you can put all that down. I believe she puts March 19th as the date she'd like the majority of it to be in there. We're gonna stick to that, so please don't make Bella
March
for me.
26th.
March 26th. Oh, even better. Jeez, even better. So March 26th. What?
The date you said was like the day after spring.
Okay.
So I was like,
No worries, it's March 26th. I misspoke. But yeah, just try to get all of your info in by then. And if you do have any and all questions, text me or Bella. We're happy to help on transition. But this is something that we want everyone, especially committee chiefs, to do. Cool. Any questions on that? Sorry, I feel like I'm talking a shit ton. Please, excuse me. Feel free to interrupt me at any point.
We have live censoring.
I truly hope so. Okay, well, you know what? To liven things up a little bit, we're all going to go around and share our favorite TED Talk that we've ever seen. And if you don't have a TED Talk off the top of your head that you super love or vibe with, just like the best speech you've ever heard. So, I would say my favorite TED Talk, I'll start, is Any and Everything by Brene Brown. I don't know if any of you have watched Brene Brown, but she talks about the power of empathy and kind of the power of making yourself vulnerable. So she has one called The Power and Vulnerability, and how that type of vulnerability really, really connects with people, and it's sometimes very hard to be that vulnerable. We're gonna go this way this time.
Is it my way?
Yeah.
I'll have a favorite TED Talk, and I guess my favorite speech. My dad gave a speech one time, and it was really cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
What was it about?
Just like being black, being a man. I liked it. I was young, so I didn't really much percent hearing that type of stuff.
But it was inspiring, I'm sure.
Yeah, very inspiring.
That's awesome.
Where?
think so.
Oh, where is Pop? Who are you speaking? Who does that?
What about you, Nige?
I'm not good with names, so I'm not gonna start with TED Talk. But my favorite speech would be Ballot to the Bullet from
up next.
I don't know the name of it exactly, but my favorite TED Talk I've ever seen, I showed it to my students that I taught this class last semester, and it's like this trans woman talking about like the how like after her transition, like the differences that she felt like, and like the different societal influences that she felt like compared from being like a woman and like identifying as a man and like all of that stuff, and it was like just an eye-opening, like really good TED Talk. Highly recommend.
Don't really have a favorite TED Talk, but recently I was a part of the issue forum for PACE. It's a one-day class. Check it out. It's really cool. But they have a panel each year, and this year's issue was the opioid epidemic, and I got the chance to hear Judge Mary Deacock speak. She is a fantastic speaker, very intelligent woman. Yeah, like, look her up. She's really cool.
I think my favorite speech is probably one that like one of the characters in Atlas Shrugged gives.
Have you read the entire Atlas Shrugged?
I did, and it was
Okay.
actually for PACE. 'Cause we had to write an essay about a worldview, and I was like, who has a worldview that I'm never going to be interested in otherwise?
Ayn Rand.
And Rand. And so I read it in I think one sitting in Wells Library, and I said, wow, this is all very wrong, but it's a side, like it's a point of view I haven't seen before, and so now I think back to it pretty often. I'm like, oh, it's still wrong, but second points of view can be interesting.
There you go. A life lesson from Mason Walter.
Wait, you read it in one sitting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
It was
was
a long
13K.
sitting.
I've seen him walking
Or
around
1300.
campus with a book.
Absolutely, yeah.
Anytime I've ever seen you on campus, you've been in a dead sprint.
That sounds like Mason.
So the only time I watched TED Talks, I watched an 8-hour block of TED Talks, so I've only ever seen one TED Talk in my mind. And, so I can't remember any of the specific ones, but I really like, I watched a debate between Charlie Kirk and Hassan Piker from the Young Turks at Politicon, and it was one of my favorite experiences.
I knew none of those terms or names, but I'm excited for you.
I'm not like super into TED Talks, but one of my teachers in high school gave a TED Talk, so we watched that in class. That was pretty sick.
What was
And it was like a legit TED Talk. It was, he's like, his like teaching philosophy was centered around 4 C's, and it was about that stuff.
Cool.
Okay, I can't think of any specific TED Talks, but one of my like most recent favorite talks or speeches was actually at WIB conference. One of the directors from the Walt Disney Company came and talked to us, and she was really just like super cool and inspiring, and just told us about, you know, writing your own story and following your passions, and it's really cool. She's a cool lady.
My favorite TED Talk I've ever seen, I can't remember the name of it, but it was like 100-year study on happiness, and it was super interesting about like what made people happy at the end of their lives, and like how connected they were with other people is like what made them happy, not like their work life. It was super interesting.
That's really cool. My favorite TED Talk was given by this guy that I go to camp with, and he was 13 years old when he gave it, and he made a medical device for another kid that had gone to my camp who was struck by lightning and couldn't communicate. So it was this attachment that went on his wheelchair, and he could communicate by like hitting his head yes or no on buttons, which is really cool. So he was giving him like a way to speak in the world again, which was awesome. And then I also have another friend from camp who works he used to work in helping people tell their stories. So he would listen to them and help prepare for when they were going to give their TED Talks, which I always thought was really cool. He had a cool impact on their lives. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. So I've watched a lot of TED Talks, and I'm also really bad with names, so I'm not going to try and attempt that question. But I do have a favorite speech. For those of you that don't know, my favorite movie in the world is Dead Poets Society. So much so that my favorite scene from my favorite movie is the background on my phone, and it is annotated with my favorite quote. My favorite quotes, actually. It's for anyone who has seen Dead Poets Society. It's the scene where all the boys are in the classroom with Professor Keating, and he's explaining to them, like, you know, world perspective, you know, you can look at it any way, but this is the real reason why people do X, Y, and Z. And he's specifically talking about literature and how literature serves as a way to make people not feel as lonely when they are lonely, and it kind of allows people to understand that, you know, your thoughts and experiences aren't necessarily just your own. You're not alone in this world. Other people have the same thing.
I don't really watch a lot of TED Talks, but there was one I watched in a high school class a long time ago. Or it was this guy from, I don't remember his name at all because it's been like 4 years. But he was from a very poor part of Africa that had very little water, and it was all about him going to like using his phone. That was really the only like connection he had to world outside of his area, and then he used that to research how to make like a dry soap that didn't require any water, so then like people would be cleaner, and they wouldn't like, it basically like stopped all the rampant disease that was in his community without having to use any of the little water that they had.
That's super cool.
I don't know my favorite TED Talk, but my favorite speech is Robert Kennedy's like Ripples of Change. I don't know. Yeah, I like that one. I like based like a speech I wrote in high school off of that, and it was really dope.
The TED Talk that I've seen recently is about how to use the time to study more efficiently. So the idea is that you want to study like for like a shorter period of time, like 30 minutes, and then take a break and then continue. So yeah, that's interesting for me.
That is interesting. Wow. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I feel much more energized. I don't know about you. So we have 24 minutes left, and in this time, again, I want to do two things. I want to break out and have us talk in groups of like 2 or 3, but please no larger than 3 because I want to hear a lot of ideas on if you were the dictator of IUSG, what would you spend $25,000 on tomorrow? Like, what do you really think would have an impact, would benefit students? I guess you really don't have to be the dictator, like we could all go behind your idea or whatever. That's not the point of student government. Maybe that was a bad analogy, but you get my point. So we have a lot of money. Just break off, talk about what you in your ideal world would do with $25,000.
I throw a fat party.
All right, break off.
Hey, I want to see that water bottle.
Charge George, we should turn
Yeah,
it
good
into
I've
job.
been looking at it.
Thanks.
This whole time.
There's a club
All right.
I say we should start an endowment for
too?
IUSG.
I was like, okay.
That's not $25,000. It's just a discretionary endowment, so we don't even spend.
So we,
At
But
least
if it was happening, then I was gonna be in.
Yeah.
I wanna
Only
go
thing that happened
do
is
a
cloud
sport.
macchiatos, and that's
Like
it.
Oh, I heard that's
intramural
going crazy.
sports.
cloud
And then
macchiatos.
normally it's like a $40 fee.
It's
And then we essentially say, we've got you covered, and Rec Sports bills us at the end of each semester for the amount of fee money that got used with, I think, a 30% discount because we did it in bulk for all of the students, and then not exceeding like a cap that we put on it. And they'll, if it goes over, because suddenly it jumps from 5,000 residents using it to 25,000 residents using it, they just say what we cost at least the first time.
Cool. Awesome. I really like that. I really like that. Did anyone else come up with some cool ideas?
It's a women's section in the gym.
Yeah.
A women's gym. I was thinking like a room.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea. What about you?
Could you just buy MacBooks for the office, like those for everywhere here?
Well, that's not gonna benefit the student
Oh,
body.
printers in every student building.
Oh,
Printers in every
oh, this is
academic
student
building.
body.
Yeah, not
Oh.
student government.
Yeah,
One
I
might
We were just
think
talking about
those, both of
anything
those
else.
suggestions
Oh,
are
yeah.
for
That's
less
what we
of
were
student
doing.
government monies and more how can we like advocate to the right people.
Oh, is that
Um,
not what we're using?
Totally wrong.
So this is $25,000 of student government funds. So this is the student dollar. I agree that these are like, well, these are two separate things. I agree that that's something that we need. I think, however, UITS or whoever would already pay for that if we showed demonstrated student need or interest, right? So like, in terms of the MacBooks, this space is about to get completely renovated, and I'm pretty sure that's on the list. But if not, I'll check.
Cool, cool, cool.
But we've been talking about that because we do need more MacBooks.
So is that external to renovation then? Like, none of these ideas should be renovation dollars?
You can shoot out these renovation ideas. I just want to give you the heads up that they likely will be grouped elsewhere and not use our student dollar on them, and instead we'll either use our capital funds where we have like $100,000, or the Division of Student Affairs funds who's offering to pay for our renovation.
I have an idea that I don't know,
Oh,
like
sorry.
if it's like even a possibility. I just thought of it. But one thing Riley and I were talking about was like this isn't like enough money to fix any big problems. For example, the mold issue. I know actually a few students who are choosing to live off campus next year because it's less expensive than the on-campus housing options that they're providing, but they're still having issues paying for their rent because of financial restrictions. Would it be possible to set up I guess a stipend for students who cannot afford the housing that they were intending to have but can no longer have because of the mold issue, and giving each student who is need-based some sort of stipend to just help with their living expenses? Again, don't know if that's a thing. I just thought of it.
Are they
Yeah, no,
refunded
so-
their housing money?
I'm sorry?
Like when they move off campus, will they be refunded their housing money?
No.
Or
No,
It's not
no.
in
They
the
so most of these people. So there's two people that I know that they signed contracts to live on campus, but because of on campus we're moving freshmen into certain dorms and we're closing certain dorms, they're choosing to live off campus because they found off campus housing that is less expensive than any on campus option that is able to be offered, and they
But on
were-
campus is not going to take their money too.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm
So they
right.
are being refunded, like
Yeah,
any
they're
type
getting all their breakers
Right,
fees.
right.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm
I
saying-
misunderstood the
no,
question.
I'm saying like next year, if they have a full scholarship, right?
Mhm.
And they live on campus or move off campus. Like I have a full scholarship, I move off campus, I get refunded my housing money. Will that happen to them?
It depends on their specific scholarship, and I know the students that I know. I don't know if this is a much larger issue, but I know that they will not be refunded any money for their off-campus housing, which is why I thought of this.
But like the school is offering like regular priced housing off campus.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
So
it's
anyway,
like-
going back to
yeah.
this point, Division of Student Affairs is actually already working on this. There's emergency funds that they're working on and stuff like that. Totally not a bad idea though, and we're meeting with David Wynn on Friday, and we'll bring it up and ask if they have any specific like mold-related issues, stipends for housing. We're trying to increase the emergency funds that they offer, so what? But
Where could I turn students to who are having this specific issue? You said that there was someone already working on it. Is there somewhere where I can
so the
look into
Division of
this?
Student Affairs, I would send them to either Sarah Ivy Lucas or
Okay.
Dee Dee Koff. They're like the assistant deans for student care and support. That's where I would take those questions.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, for
I'd
sure.
ask some resources too.
Great, thank you.
Does this have to be spent this year?
Yes, we, in order to not, so full transparency, in order to not screw up the next CFR process, we need to spend this money before July. The reason we're in this issue really is because we didn't have a budget passed by Congress until December 5th. So that's pretty much why, because we had a whole half a year without spending money. So yes.
Would we be able to create an endowment? Would that count as spending this money?
So we've thought about that. The issue is that that doesn't benefit the students that paid this fee.
Well, so I was thinking like an endowment for a recurring event that IUSG would host in the future, like something like that.
Fashion show.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I'll talk to,
Like if there's something that every administration could agree upon that would be beneficial to the students to have available to them every year.
yeah,
Right.
not a bad
Yeah.
idea. One thing is that which we could fix, but this organization has lacked transparency.
Yeah.
So I would tell you right now that if there had been an event endowment started 5 years ago, we would not have known about it coming into this
Mhm.
office. We would have found out probably half a year through doing a random dig through the archives.
Through a Snapchat series.
So we would need to ensure that it was advertised, but I don't think that's a bad idea, right? So like one thing we're doing this year for IU Day is we're purchasing $1,000 worth of canned goods, and then students can come pick up a can from us and donate it. Trying to increase, donations to Hoosier Hills Food Bank. If we could endow that, so this could happen every year, it'd be super cool. Not a bad idea. Mason?
If you wanted to cover STD testing and treatment through the health center, that can be pretty costly. I know when we did a very limited run, we exhausted like I think $10,000 pretty quickly. So you could burn through $25,000 like that.
Not a bad idea. Also offering subsidized or free health or flu shots next year. Did you guys do that at all this year?
We didn't do it.
No, I think that's another one because we talked this year. Becca's not here, but there really is no option for students who can't afford a flu shot. They offer them at discounted rates, but they don't offer
Free flu shots.
free flu shots. That's another one, and we could use that money to set it up for next year. Which
I like that.
Not a bad idea. Cool. These are all super good ideas. Yeah. Yeah, so we've already been working on that with the Division of Student Affairs, and that's what we're raising money for on IU Day. So our big IU Day push this year from IUSG, Alex actually has an email and a letter that he signed that is going to go out to all students, is asking for donations to the CAPS Emergency Fund and the CAPS Need Fund. And we have a donor who's going to match donations above $10. So if you donate $10 as a student, that becomes $20. So we're really excited about that. We're hoping to raise around $4,000, but there are also a couple of other orgs that are doing this type of push. And then internally, we have the Rape Crisis Fund money. I don't know, has Bella given all of us an update on that? So when we register for classes, you know how there's that checkbox of things like, do you want to donate to Arbutus or do you want to donate to Riley Dance Marathon, stuff like that. There's been a checkbox for 10 years, I guess, for a Rape Crisis Fund. That was a box campaign started by IUSA. And so that money comes into our account every year and then we transfer it over. And how much do we have this year? Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't know where that.
I think it's like $14,000, which is a lot to raise for like $5 donations from people. And so because of the new rules with university student organizations, you can't donate money. We're not allowed to just say we want to write a $10,000 check to Middleway House. We're instead going to use this money to internally transfer over to SACS to increase sexual violence counseling and sexual assault counseling. So we're excited about that, but that checkbox actually has to go away this year because of the new donation rules. But yeah, good idea. Any other ideas? Concert?
Yeah, but for like with a specific intent in mind, but for students.
We tried to do that this year. We really did.
I feel like it's kind of.
It's too late to post people and that kind of stuff.
I'm just
No,
saying, it
Alex
sounds
and I
like
tried that. We
Why?
tried to work with
Who's
like
on the line?
March for Our Lives and
stop
Matt,
it,
who we know, to do like Peace Without a Peace event. So like supporting non-violence. But yeah. Cool. What time is it? So it's 7:50. We have about 10 minutes. Any other last pressing things? Updates on life. Thanks for letting me eat some of your stats with you, not putting it play.
I'm not busy yesterday. Grad school, it was sad. And it was like a week IU. Like Illinois is just like a week.
Really?
Yeah. It was when I was at IU.
Aww. Yeah, I can't believe we're graduating in 60 days.
Adios.
Don't say that.
Hey,
There's a
bye,
lot
Patrick.
about U of I.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it, guys. Thank you all. Have a great spring break. Patrick, let's chat. Anyone else who wants to chat with me?
Is it good to be captain?
I appreciate